Hello, Yakri here with another Dominions 5 video. So this time we're going to go through levels 7 to 9 of Enchantment, and I'm going to talk about all the spells in them, and we'll do a little bit of a recap over the spell school. Okay, so first off, we got Dome of Flaming Death. I've already brought up the Dome spells in previous videos. This is much like the other ones, it doesn't actually stop enemy spells from getting into your city. Instead, it just blasts anyone who tries to put spells into your city or target your city with spells with a blast of fire, hopefully killing them. So, you know, that's kind of neat. A very fire way to deal with people poking you with long-range spells. Then we've got, and you know, actually before I move on, we'll just say, I don't know, which one of these you used is kind of determined by what you have access to. I'm not a fan of the Dome of Flaming Death because I believe it actually deals damage to the enemy caster, meaning they don't necessarily die. But it doesn't necessarily stop your opponent from hitting you with spells that can allow them to win the game, right? If they've got something really worth spamming at you. So, not a huge fan of it, but hey, you know, it can be useful in some cases, especially if you're getting slammed by human-sized mages. It'll probably kill those just fine. Okay, Mass Flight. This gives all your troops flight. It's a very useful spell, provided you have something strategic to do with it, probably. Attacking rear and hitting the enemy's backlines, especially if they don't realize you researched this spell yet, can be very powerful, particularly if you have a good unit to do it with. Something very disruptive, like war elephants, for example, because you can trample across the battlefield. So, very useful utility spell. I'm a big fan of it. Although it's a little bit rare to see it used because, you know, it takes level 7 enchantment for air, fairly demanding, but it's still quite a good spell. Ghost Ship Armada. Now let's see, this one is not good at all, really. I mean, it does something, but here's the thing: it can be defeated. That's a huge problem. They don't even have to dispel it. That's just, I don't think that's really fair to the person casting Ghost Ship Armada. And yeah, it just attacks random coastal provinces. It's kind of like a minor annoyance that can end up being a total waste of water gems if it hits a big army that it loses to, which is totally possible. Thetis' Blessing, allowing all troops in the world to enter the sea. This is hugely useful, provided you need to go into the ocean for any reason. Good reasons to do that could be to you know, take over an underwater nation, but more likely you're not going to bother with this unless you can take a throne so that you can win the game. That's what this is for, generally speaking. Because, you know, taking thrones is the most important thing if you're in the traditional game mode. It can also be useful for annoying water nations, but I don't know if I would really care to cast it unless I was going to go take a throne and win the game myself. There's also the risk of it being dispelled, which is a pretty big problem, so I would advise investing a lot of gems in this if you're going to use it and then put a big army in the water. Let's see, Lion Set, is this new? Oh, this is totally new, right? Alright, well, if someone says this is from Dom 4, I'm going to have to just kick myself, because that would be bizarre if I managed to miss this. Enchantment increases your order scales by 1. Is it only on one province? It's outside the castle walls. God of Marb. Let's come to life and attack the besieging army. This is really cool. Okay. This is not a global enchantment, right? So Lion Sentinels. Here's the really neat thing about this. If you don't have Order 3, then casting this is going to give you access to more recruitment points in the castle you cast it on. So does it last until it's dispelled? Yeah. Only be cast in a fortification. This is really cool. I would say this is good. It's probably worth 30 earth gems to get an order scale. If you already have 3 order, it's probably not that good, but if you took 2 order or 1 order or any level of turmoil, it's probably well worth casting. And this is the Earth Ritual that gives you Earth Gems. It's good because it gives you gems, and gems are good. Remember, of course, you need to probably be able to keep a hold of this for at least 10 turns so it can really start paying off. But long term, it can, especially if you manage to rush any of those rituals somehow without getting yourself killed. Very, very good. You can get it, you know, like turn 30 or something. That's why what is it? Mother Oak is so good because you can get it relatively quickly as a lot of nature nations, and so it can end up paying off big time over the course of the game. Burn all. Okay, so this kills all undead. I don't know if it. I don't actually know offhand if it soul slays them or just deals massive damage, but either way, Solar Brilliance will clear a battlefield of long dead. It certainly does enough damage that they basically all die. It is good enough that it can be a great suicide strategy to send in an Astral Mage, although having an Astral Mage this big is a big thing to sacrifice. But against some nations, you can see like thousands, plural, of long dead in armies, and this can clear them all out in one casting. Absolutely amazing. Provided you can manage to use it, right? A good way to do that would be with the returning spell. So when your mage takes any damage, if it's not an instantly fatal blow, they'll return to where they cast the return spell ritual, and they'll be able to do this again. Keeping in mind that it doesn't really matter how afflicted your mage is, as long as they're not like mute or something, then you can just keep doing this strategy. Alright. Stellar Focus, this is the Astral one, right? 5 Astral Pearls per turn. Yeah, okay. This one's great. It's Astral Pearls. Astral Pearls are perhaps the most valuable gem type because you can turn them into other gem types fairly efficiently if you need to. So yeah, it's really good. It's only 5 Astral Pearls, but it's still very, very good. I mean, I don't think there's any more to say about that. It's one of the better gem per turn rituals, although the blood one is probably the best. Carrion Reanimation. I don't remember the spell. To 100 unburied bodies in a okay, so it just reanimates 100 soulless. I think that's what that means, right? Okay. And it requires unburied corpses, at least 100 of them, in a province. So it's 10 gems. This is probably actually worth casting. Range up to 5 provinces, only provinces you control. Okay, yeah. That's perfectly useful. Like 100 soulless for 10 gems, 10 for a gem. It's not like a great deal because soulless are really garbage, but it's kind of worth casting, and it could be neat to shore up an army. Like, since you could just do this 5 provinces away, you have a big battle happen, you win the battle, you have another mage cast this spell long range. You could even preemptively... Wait, could you preemptively cast it? No, only if you were defending there were already unburied provinces, corpses in the province. But you cast it, and then you add 100 soulless to your army. Maybe you have 2 or 3 mages cast it if there are enough corpses in a province. Yeah, you could even pillage a province to create corpses and cast it to try to kind of shore up your army with more chaff. So that could be kind of handy. I can see a variety of ways you could potentially use that. Not a great spell, but at least useful. Okay, I'm gonna need to check this out. Summons Leviathan. I forget how good the Leviathan is. Leviathan. Okay, so the Rotting Asp Turtle. Which one is it? Oh, it changes. So let's look at the land shape version because that's probably what you're gonna use. Oh wait, is this the amphibious one? Oh yeah, I looked at the amphibious one, not the land one. Okay, so this thing is actually kind of nasty. How much gem? 12 death gems? Probably not worth 12 death gems unless I'm missing something about it. It does have a fear aura, which is pretty good. 143 hit point unit with 19 protection and a fear aura. Trample. Huh. I'm not sure it's as good as saving gems to cast something better. I mean, it's easier to cast, obviously, than, like, Lichcraft, right? But Lichcraft, the liches you get for Lichcraft, super good. So good. Only 30 gems, right? So for instead of 3 Leviathans, you have 1 Lich. If you have enough death to cast this, way better. Obviously, it's at Enchantment 8. It takes more death pathing, but, I don't know. I think I might save my death gems for something else, but I won't say Asp Turtles are useful or useless because it has a fear aura and a huge amount of hit points and trample. Especially if you did something else with it. Like if you have Death Air, you can make them fly and send them to the back of the battlefield as fear tramplers. That's actually a really good use of them. But it's kind of overshadowed by things like Lichcraft or I think maybe even other tactics like summoning Banes and kitting them out and stuff like that. Yeah, that's kind of my opinion on that. Life After Death. This spell is really useful. So something you should keep in mind, at least this was how it worked in Dom 4, when I did this with the Ankh, right? It's an artifact item that just auto-cast this effect. this spell will raise your mages as undead mages with the same pathing, right? Which in the case of for some nations, this can actually make your mages more powerful than when they were alive. So it's very good. It's very good if you can get it off. Certainly hard to get off before something like Rain of Stones due to the casting time. But if you can get this off before some battlefield-wide destruction your opponent is going to drop on you and you're a living army, it can potentially allow you to eat a lot more casts of something like Earthquake or Rain of Stones without losing your valuable troops. Of course, like your mages that are weak to that kind of thing. And also, of course, turning your troops into chaff just makes it a lot harder to chew through your army, especially if you combine this with some other spell that boosts the durability of your army as well. Let's see. Ritual of Rebirth. This summons a hero. I want to say this is garbage. Let me double check. Ritual of Rebirth, huh? Rebirth. I know there's a reason I didn't ever do this. Right, it just summons a mummy for 15 gems. So this is, I want to say, objectively inferior to the Leviathan. Now, it does have undead leadership, but there are earlier undead leadership spells that are probably better than this. And summoning the undead Leviathan, of course, it does have a cross path with water, right? So that's a fair point there. That thing is actually pretty good for 12 gems. It's much more powerful than this unit for a smaller number of gems. Unless you want to do something like, it has Plague Spreader 8, so you could do a niche weird strategy, like maybe you give it a Cat's Eye Amulet and a Bane Venom Charm, right, which causes it to spread plague even more. I assume that stacks, and you make it stealthy, and then you walk it into other people's provinces and kill a lot of their population per turn. I think that would give it like Plague Spreader 10 or something. That could be pretty nasty. So theoretically, you could use it for that. As an actual like leader or combat unit, it's pretty bad though. Let's see. Serpent's Blessing. All right, mass poison resist. It counters poison mass poison spells like Foul Vapors. Otherwise, of course, not much use. Except against, also Hydras and stuff like that. Awakened Tree Lords. Tree Lords are great. They have Ivy Lord, I believe. They're really. Let's see, how worth their gems are they? I know they're good, but how good exactly are they? Awaken Tree Lord. Yeah. Okay, so you have... Oh, yeah, that's right. There's a few possibilities for what you get. Oh, fuck, they're casters. That's right. Yeah, this is super good. So there's the Tree Lord, which is 4 nature, 1 blood. The Dying Tree Lord, which is 5 nature. And, the regular Tree Lord, which is 1 earth, 4 nature. So any of these are really good to get, magic path-wise and just in general. Let's see, it was 5 nature to cast, but it's one way you can bootstrap up to higher nature. Oh wait, can you? I guess it's one way you can bootstrap up to higher nature if you have misc slot boosters, right? Because they don't have hands, obviously. What else is there to say about these guys? They're quite good, basically. They have Ivy Lord 3, except for the Dying Tree Lord, which actually is Ivy Lord 4. And I believe there's like 1 Ivy Lord item that goes in your misc slot. Maybe you can't actually stack it. Well, that's unfortunate, but it's still enough Ivy Lord that it's useful to do with like summon Vine Ogres. And the spell casting is great. They're immobile, so that's a problem. But you can basically just do rituals with them in a city somewhere, or craft items with them, and they're very useful for that. Okay, so for 35 gems for like a 5 path caster, super good. Gift of Health. Gift of Health is insanely good. It gives your units 10% more health per Dominion candle in your Dominion, and they heal afflictions. Insanely powerful. This is one of the most powerful, maybe I want to say, maybe the second most powerful enchantment of the game, right? Because Burden of Time is game-winning just bullshit if you're an undead nation. But Gift of Health is so good. I mean, doubling... I don't even know. Like, it should be pretty apparent to anyone, like, why having a huge health bonus to your units and also giving all of your units recuperation. Insanely good. I believe, unless something about it has been changed, it even heals inflictions on units that can't normally heal afflictions, which is how you get the Tartarians to have their afflictions removed so you can use them as thugs. Okay. Moving on. Fire Fend. Yeah, right. So it's battlefield wide fire resistance, gives you fire resistance 5. It's very good if you need to counter fire magic. Same for Thunder Fend, Mist of Deception. Let's see, this one is it constant phantasmal soldiers per round, or will emerge to battle nearby enemies. Sight and range of all spells and missiles. This is pretty good. It's most excuse me. This is mostly for if you're at a disadvantage, right? The sight and range of all spell limitation things kind of nifty. And also distracting the enemy army with illusions. That's good. Particularly good when you're at a disadvantage, basically, and when the enemy has like more projectile units, kind of like with a lot of the other like projectile or spell accuracy reducing things. It's not like a game breaking like haha I win type spell, but it's good. Frost Fend is the same as the other Fend spells. Wrath of the Sea. This is not good. That's my. It floods coastal provinces, annoying people that have coastal provinces. Alright, Unraveling. This, what is it? I don't remember this one. Oh, right. Magic beings. Right, magic beings dissolve. Oh, yeah, is that all? Yeah. This is one of the reasons that being a magic being sucks. If your opponent has a lot of magic beings and you don't cast this spell, fuck them up, man. Make them very sad. It's great. Otherwise, it's not very useful. Lichcraft. Alright, this summons liches. And wait, no, this is exactly the thing I was talking about earlier. Liches are really good. Let's see. Lichcraft summons liches with, I think, like Death 4 or Lichcraft. It summons liches with Death 4. Yep. They're Death 4. They're immortal. That's like a key thing here, right? And they're a little bit weak otherwise. But Death 4 Immortal Mage. That's insanely good. You can basically make them thugs because they can cast like they can cast Stygian Skin. Or do they have whatchamacallit normally? No. They can cast Stygian Skin, and then they can cast or no, actually, they can cast Full-on Invulnerability, and they can cast Soul Vortex, and they can wade into combat and just be great. Or they can spam Horde of Skeletons. You've got that because you've researched this high in enchantment, and they're going to be very good at that as well. Or they can cast a variety of other spells. If you actually give them items, they can do things like spam Bone Grinding suicidally to fuck up an big enemy army, die, but they don't actually die, they're immortal. And don't forget, Immortality was buffed in Dominions 5. These were already great in Dominions 4. I think they're an extremely good unit now. Let's see. Dragon Master. So this straight up just buffs your ability to summon more dragons. There aren't a lot of dragons that are worth like spam summoning, but perhaps if you got this, then maybe summoning Drakes or Wyverns would be worthwhile when you're summoning 3 instead of 1. Yeah, I could say like Dragon Master 3. I think. Yeah, there are certain units, I can't recall offhand who gets this, but there are units that get Dragon Master already. I believe there's some Pretender that does. And if you pick one of those troops, right, if you have access to that, a Dragon Master troop, and you cast this, it should stack. At which point, I'm sure it would be worthwhile to spam those summoning spells. Mass Regeneration. This is insanely good. Like, it's regeneration for your entire army. 10% health restored per turn. Gives you a huge advantage over the course of a large battle, especially if your troops are resistant to damage in some other way, or they're giants or something like that. This is extremely good for blood nations, actually, because if you have a big army of demons tend to have quite a lot of hit points, pretty good protection, general stats. They're very valuable units to cast this on, and you can actually get quite a lot of like demon knights or devils, and this is very good on those troops. So, I mean, I'm not sure what else to say about that. It's one of the most powerful buff spells in the game, right up there with like Fog Warriors. Fog Warriors is a little more counterable, but arguably better. But it's still very powerful. If you have nature magic, you're going to want this for like the super late game fights. Like when you're around turn 90, like this is the thing that like makes a huge difference. If other people don't have access to it, and you do because you're a nature nation. It's also a good reason to climb up nature through summons if you can, when you wouldn't normally have access to it. Now let's see. Haunted Forest. Kill anyone in the God's Dominion, creating mannequins. Not anyone killed. I don't know if this creates like a valuable number of undead. I haven't encountered anyone like using it in a useful way. It could be neat, perhaps, but I think it's not as good as that the other forest one where it spreads dominion from forests or something. Is this that? No. Yeah, it's a bit mediocre, I think, but probably not useless. Mannequins are better than a lot of other chaff units. So at level 9, we've got some neat stuff here. Demon Cleansing. Battlefield enchantment. All demons take double damage. This is kind of like the way to counter those demon summoning nations that mostly have rule over the end game, if you have water magic anyway. Because, you know, demons are really good and you can get a lot of them. So yeah, fucking demons up is very useful. Arcane Nexus, right, this is a little weird. Basically, if other people are doing a lot of things with their magic gems, you get a lot of benefit from this, right? This is also the fact that you don't really get much from Astral or Blood, which is like a lot of endgame stuff, so it kind of worsens the value of this, but depending, if you get to very late game, and there are a lot of opponents left, maybe if it was a very big game, right, this is going to be more valuable. If there's only like you and like 1 or 2 other people like struggling for control of the map, this is not going to be as useful, but if there's a lot of people burning through a wide variety of gems with different magic paths and stuff, this is going to get you the most value in that situation. Let's see. World reanimate bodies and build across. Emerge from the ground. Ah, yes. You just summon, I think, Long Dead? It's either Long Dead or Soulless. I think it's... might be Soulless, actually, because it's recently dead, right? Yeah, I mean, this is good. It's a good spell to destroy, stack on top of other battlefield enchantments to give you an edge over time. Don't actually like it as much as that earlier one. What was it called? Ritual of Rebirth, I believe. But you could do both, honestly, I think, and it'd be quite useful for you. Gaia's Blessing. Oh, yeah, this is great. This one's fantastic. Resistant to fire, frost, lightning, and poison. It's only resistance 5, I believe, but the fact that it combines all 3 of them is very useful. And then we've got Gift of Nature's Bounty, the final one. I think this is actually not that great. You get a lot more gold. And I think it increases your growth scales if you... maybe it doesn't have any side effects besides increasing gold. It doesn't matter too much though, because it's Gift of Nature's Bounty. It's useful because you could have a use for money, mostly in recruiting more mages, but the fact that it's like it's something that's going to take you a while to gain a significant benefit of, it's extremely high nature pathing, and it's at research 9. So unless you're playing in an accelerated research game, it's unlikely that you're going to get this at a point in the game where it will have time to pay off, right? So a little bit reduces the value of it. Same could be said for Arcane Nexus, right? That's why like it's actually going to be fairly common that you're in a situation where it's not going to be useful to cast that, because most people are going to have, you know, been wiped off the face of the map. The game's not going to be going on too much longer, and you're blowing 150 Astral Pearls on that? I don't think so. So yeah, much more a fan of the instant payoff things, of which there aren't very many at tier 9 for enchantment. There's actually not a lot of reason to go up to tier 9 at all. Like the real benefits would be Army of the Dead. Let's see. No, not Army of the Dead. Fuck, I skipped this by accident, didn't I? The distant we'll join the attack. Well, controls the dead. Huh, it doesn't say exactly how much, how big that Army of the Dead is going to be. So, Army of the Dead, long-range province thing, creates a shitload of long dead. I assume it means like 100 long dead. Can I actually check in Dom Inspector? I don't think so. Oh yeah, I can, okay. So, it's 40 long dead plus 5 per level of the caster. So, you definitely want like a Death 7 caster or something to get a good bonus. Plus, you get an additional 20 soulless Soul Trap Ghosts, not very good at all. Bit weak, honestly. It's especially for tier 9. It's like not. It should be like. I kind of feel like it should be like 200 long dead and just up the gem cost a bit there. But anyway, Fields of the Dead and Demon Cleansing are like the really useful things up here in level 9 enchantment. So if you don't need either of those, I probably wouldn't bother going for it. Yeah. So To recap Enchantment, Enchantment is a combination of buffs and unit summons and like large-scale enchantments, I guess map buffs, right? Like Earthblood, Deepwell, Lion Sentinels, that kind of thing. It's a very useful spell school, especially in the first like 5 research levels are very valuable. And it's particularly of value to like Earth, Nature, and Death magic. Not a lot of great stuff in Fire, somewhat limited stuff in Air, although there's some fairly good spells for Air as well. Really, like, was there almost nothing of? Like, well, there's very like no blood magic in here. Blood magic is all in blood magic. What am I talking about? There's some arcane stuff in here, but it's a little bit limited, right? I mean, there's a little bit for every spell school, but it's a bit limited for things that aren't like Death, Nature, and a little bit of Earth, and then Earth comes in like third, I would say, for useful spells in here. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers Enchantment. Trying to think if I've left anything out. That's key import. Well, you know, I'll make a final follow-up video if I need to. I'll have to review all the comments over my videos to see how it's done. All right, so that's it for Enchantment, and I hope you will look forward to my next series, which will be what is it next? Thaumaturgy. We are almost done with magic schools. Almost done. It's just gonna take me a few more weeks, I think. Blood magic should be faster. There's a limited number of spells. They're basically all good, so that should be fun. All right, see y'all next time. Yakri out.